Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we are going to be starting day one of minimizing my home by 50%. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw my post where I mentioned that I have a goal for this year, and that is to minimize my home by a lot. I'm aiming for 50%. Now, is it doable? I'm going to work really hard. I have ADHD and there is just so much that I get overwhelmed with. However, I have come up with really good systems for decluttering, and that is exactly what I'm going to be utilizing to show you day by day how I'm going to achieve that. If you're new here, hi, my name is Yessie, and I help people manage their home while dealing with depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And as always, these tips can apply to anybody that doesn't deal with that, but I do tend to focus a little bit more on that. Today is day one, and we are starting in the laundry room, and this is at its best. This is how it looks all of the time. And this is a sign of basically it's not working for you. This is what I usually tell people to take a look at. This is a sign of passing your threshold. So, when I tell people to walk into a room, I tell them to look at every single spot, from the floor to the top to the walls. Can you manage this in a reasonable amount of time on your worst days? I'm talking days that you had horrible meetings and work and people are sick in the house and you're not feeling good. Is this manageable at your worst? This for me is not manageable at my worst. And so this is why we're taking this challenge and we're going to go ahead and tackle it. So let's get started. First things first, I always tell people to start from one direction to the other, and that applies to cleaning, but today we're decluttering. So you're going to start with one section of the room and work your way through it. Now, I like to clear the bigger section where I know I'm going to be working the most. I need a landing zone, an area where everything can be seen and I don't have to struggle with piles and trying to figure out what everything is. So here I am clearing this back section because I want to use this as kind of a go-to zone so that I can slightly figure out where everything should go. Smaller things, I'm making sure that go back to where they belong, and then I move on to the bigger bins. These bins, honestly, even though it makes sense to have this storage, it's just collecting things, and I don't want to keep collecting things. I don't even know what half of the stuff in these bins are. So all of these bins are coming down and they're going to get repurposed. Things that I can keep in this room, I will, but everything has to be either repurposed, donated, or trash. And for the most part, everything that I got out of there was repurposed, and some items are going to be donated because I haven't used them in months. And if I haven't used it in months, I am not going to use them if they're just sitting in a basket. So I am slowly assessing everything that's happening here, every bin, checking everything out, making sure that I indeed don't need to keep anything that is in those bins. And then I'm going to go ahead and rehome them. Now, I do have a few small things that I want to keep there, but for the most part, I'm just going to decorate the section. I'm going to make it pretty, and I'm going to focus on just keeping it pretty. And no, aesthetics are not everything, but when you want to keep an area minimum, the last thing you want to do is keep adding baskets to store things that you're not using. So instead, I'm just going to make it pretty. That way I don't feel tempted to basically rack it up with stuff again. I'm adding 2 small wicker baskets and I'm putting some artwork, and that's all I'm going to do. Those 2 baskets will hold whatever I desperately need to have access to, and everything else will have to find a new home. Now I'm going to move on to the wall, and these 2 things that are for the laundry can actually, they have magnets so they can go on the side, and you can see how overwhelmed I feel right now because now I'm thinking I got to clear the floor now. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Clearing the floor is one thing that you can focus first if you absolutely have no space. In previous videos, I've mentioned that you need floor space to walk around. So that is now what I'm doing. Making sure that everything gets thrown out and whatever is going to stay there, I'm kind of putting it on the other side. Now, these bins have things that I'm going to have to keep here in this laundry, so I am putting them at the exit of it. Now, I am the worst at creating piles. I'm doing my absolute best not to make a pile, but if you have ADHD, you probably have ADHD piles at home.
I'm doing my absolute best to not do this right here, but there's some times where you just can't help it. As long as you're going to take care of it right there and then, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Now, I love having this hamper. This hamper I use for towels. It has 3 compartments, it has wheels, it has a little handle. I need this in here. So I am just going to go ahead and put things that should go in there back in there, and I'm going to roll it out and actually have it out and about. This way I can utilize it properly, and I'm not using it as a catch-all, because in that little section where it was just a dumping session. So I am, as you can see here, trying to figure out where I'm going to put this. These things have huge magnets. They are meant to be on the side of your dryer. One of them is a lint catcher trash bin, and the other one is just like little dryer ball container. So I am just going to make sure I utilize that section. Then this other catch-all, and this is one thing that bugs me. I love having space to fold laundry, except I don't use it to fold laundry. I use it as a catch-all. So now I am shifting things to the main zone, which was the other part, and I'm slowly putting things back to where they're going to go. I also make sure that it makes sense. Like if you were to walk in here and you weren't part of my home, it should make sense to you. And this is because my husband also does laundry. There may be a time where a family member needs to use this room. It needs to make sense to absolutely everyone that walks in. This is how simple I want the systems to be. And again, because I have ADHD, things still need to be out and about. Now, unfortunately, I have a ton of cleaners that need better organizing. They're underneath that cabinet where I'm standing. They are in clear bins, and even though I thought I had a good system, it is not a good system. I have no idea what I have going on there. It is a really bad system. So even though I'm not doing this right here because I think it should be a whole new task, I am going to be taking those cleaners out and better organizing them. Still trying to figure out where that home's going to be. So I'm not starting that project unless I have a home for them. And that is the next thing that I want you to keep in mind. Don't tackle the project if you don't already have the mindset of where things should go. If you don't already have a bin for donations, if you don't already have a trash bag with you, if you don't already have a game plan for where you're going to rehome things, don't tackle that area, because then you're going to be left with a pile of what ifs right outside of this room, and it's going to stress you out, and you've already used up all of your energy to take care of this one zone. You are not going to take care of another zone. So please, please, please don't take more under your wing if you don't already have an execution plan. Now, I found that I was using containers for things that I really didn't need containers for. Like I had a bunch of batteries here, and in my old home, it made sense to have them in containers because the layout was just much different. In this one though, I have drawers and I have space, and I just don't need the additional containers. Now, previously in other videos, I mentioned to you guys, containers make sense for type A people. They seem to love these. They thrive with them. They love how, it stores things. However, if you have ADHD, like I do, containers can be very dangerous because we forget what's in them. And unless you're labeling them, it is so incredibly hard to always know. Case in point, I have these things in containers in these cabinets. I have no idea what everything is. Now, these items do belong here, so I'm keeping them here, with the exception of a few that are coming out. But for the most part, everything is staying here because that is the home that I've given them. I have paint here that I use for my kids' arts and crafts. I don't want it easily accessible because they have gotten into paint before, and there has been many accidents of paint throughout the house. So I don't want those easily visible to them. I don't even want to think about it. But everything else, like this bin right here, this clear bin had like old decor with some random cables, a label maker with no back clip, this other label maker, a little mini speaker. I had no clue that these things were in here because I just tossed them in there. And that is how we start with the clutter. So I'm bringing all of these things out. The black bins, I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do with them. So I have a plan for those. And now you're going to see my big old mess of cleaners. And this isn't even all of the cleaners. Now, There is a lot that I love to test out for you guys. So I do end up with piles of cleaners, and sometimes I try to kind of make sense of what works for me. I've gotten rid of a lot of cleaners. I've given them to my mom, and it's a lot. So I need to come up with a better system. Now, because I do what I do for a living, which is cleaning and, showing you guys, things like that on the internet, I tend to test out a lot of things when it comes to that. And that's okay. That's my job and I love doing it, but I need to get better about organizing my tools. So, while I'm not going to fully declutter this because I do use everything, I am taking out some of the clear bins and I'm replacing them with the buckets and making sure that only the things that I need are in there. Now, I think I had an idea of what I wanted here, but honestly, it was not executed properly. And I'm going to work on creating a home in a second video before I go on and tackling this cabinet right here. It's just a little too overwhelming and I did not want to introduce that into an already big project. Now, if you are working room by room, please focus on a 20-minute timer. I spend about 25 minutes in this room, and you might think there's no way. But the thing is I focus on a section little by little, like a puzzle. I made sure I took care of one section, then the next, then the next, and then the next. Because that is how you actually declutter properly. If you go on just trying to attempt everything all at once, you're going to end up with a pile. Now, I did have the things like the bins outside, which I'll show you guys, but those already had a home in my head. And I did end up putting them back where they belong. So I wouldn't worry too much if you think, gosh, she ended up with a pile and she said not to have a pile. That pile already had a home, it was already claimed for, and I don't have to worry about figuring things out at the end of this room. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. There is a reason why I chose the laundry room. This is by far the smallest task that I will have to tackle, and I always recommend that you start with the smallest task. I want you to build momentum. I don't want you to be afraid to get rid of things. I don't want you to feel so overwhelmed that you don't want to go back. I don't want you to feel scared and feel like you need to buy more stuff to organize more. I want you to feel like you're a champion that did this, because this is how I feel. I was very overwhelmed going into it. I was afraid of having to get rid of things. And it may not seem like a lot, but considering now I don't have to worry about having sections that are just storing junk and everything actually has a use in my home, this makes me feel good. It makes me feel accomplished, and I know that you can too. So I want you to join me and let's try to tackle this decluttering together. And I will see you guys in the next room in the next time. Bye.